beg to move that this House has considered the prevention of knife crime in the West Midlands, and it's a pleasure to serve under your first chairmanship, Sir John. I want to open this debate by talking about a knock on a mother's door, the kind of knock that too many parents have experienced, and too many more dread. Last week, a woman from my area told me her story. She had already heard through friends that something had happened that night. Her sister was out searching the local hospitals. She had rung the police and they told her someone would be there soon. Then she heard a knock on the front door. What happened to my son was what I was always worried about. He was the kind of person who always protected his friends, and that's what happened. He stepped in front of his friend to protect him, and he was stabbed. The loss of a child in this way feels too enormous to comprehend, but she explained to me the ways it had affected not just her own life, but her other children's lives. My daughter is so angry, but she won't talk about what happened. She feels there is no justice for her brother. She's only in primary school, but she's self-harming. We are here today in this debate because we have got to stop this happening. Families shattered, communities destroyed by knives. It's my duty as the MP for West Bromwich to do everything I can to work with the police, with schools, with constituents and my community to stop this nightmare from happening in the first place. In the West Midlands, we have the highest rate of knife crime per capita of any region in England. But I don't want to talk about stats today. I want to talk about stories of the victims, of those who live in fear, and even those of people who have committed these terrible crimes. This debate is focused on prevention, so I want to talk about the role policing has to play in that, as well as intervention by schools, communities, and families to keep young people safe. Last year, I went to a football tournament in memory of one of the young players who was stabbed to death. I spoke to some of the teenagers there, and I was truly shocked by what I heard. They were angry. They distrusted the police, but still felt that there should be more of them around. They felt trapped in places where crime was all around them. They felt they had no opportunities for a different and better life. One teenage boy said to me, and I will never forget this, that he didn't think he would live to the age of 22. This past week, I got in touch with their coach again, and I asked them for the young people's thoughts on what the government needs to do to tackle knife crime. And here is some of what they said. The gang violence and knife crime is getting worse in my area. We need more youth centres and funding to help stop this. Could we do more to stop youths from buying knives on the internet? Why aren't there more police patrolling the town centres that are known for knife crime and gangs? Our local area is getting worse and no one seems to care enough to do anything about it. Education around knife crime should happen at a much younger age. A majority of young people don't take it seriously because it has not happened to someone close to them, so maybe education needs to be by someone who has really suffered as a consequence of knife crime. The mother I mentioned earlier felt similarly. There is no support, no prevention, not enough youth clubs. It's too easy to access these weapons. You can go and buy them online with no proof of ID. There's nothing for young people to do now. My youth club provided experiences like whitewater rafting. Now the youth clubs are all gone, social media has come in, and crime is through the roof. After years of cuts to policing and youth services, it's no surprise that we haven't been able to turn the tide on knife crime. Our new Labour government has shown important ambition in committing to halving knife crime in a decade, and I'd appreciate the Minister in her response going into some detail about how we are planning to achieve this. The young people I mentioned identified some themes that get to the heart of this matter. Visible policing as a deterrent, reducing access to knives, and early intervention and education. And can I ask the Minister how young people are being involved in policy design to ensure the action government takes is effective? The police service in the West Midlands was slashed in the austerity years. We still have 800 fewer police officers and 500 fewer PCSOs than we did in 2010. The knock-on effect of this is obvious. It's not just seeing police walking around our town centres and crime hotspots that keeps us safe. It's about police and PCSOs having the time and the space to build those key community relationships, gain trust and vital intelligence that can stop crime. One of our most important pledges during the election was to restore neighbourhood policing, and I look forward to us having 13,000 extra officers and PCSOs across the country. As well as wanting to see police on our streets, people often raise with me the need for strong sentences to deter people from carrying a knife. And fundamentally, we've got to reduce access to these lethal weapons. When looking at rates of knife crime per capita, West Brom is the highest for possession in Sandwell. We had a dreadful incident before Christmas where young people were running around West Bromwich in broad daylight wearing balaclavas and wielding machetes. It was terrifying for the people who were there, and it has a huge knock-on effect on local businesses and the entire area. West Midlands Police have set up the Life or Knife initiative, which provides education in schools and allows people to anonymously report when someone is carrying a knife. Our Police and Crime Commissioner has also funded weapons surrender bins across the region. But we've got to cut this off at source. My local paper, The Express and Star, ran an award-winning campaign with Wolverhampton mother Pooja Kanda to ban these zombie-style knives and machetes. I applaud the paper for this important work, and I fully support the Labour government's commitment to do this. And as the victim's mother I talked about earlier said to me, online retailers have to be held to account. So can I ask the Minister, now that the ban has been in place for a few months, is it proving successful? And in particular, what enforcement action is being taken against these online retailers who are delivering these zombie-style knives straight to people's homes? And these things are all important. Police presence, reducing access to lethal weapons. But perhaps the most important thing of all is education, early intervention, and constant support for young people who could get caught up in violence. Research shows that young people excluded from education are at greater risk of getting involved in violence, which is why it's so important we do everything we can to keep young people in school. In the last few years, there have also been important programmes with organisations like St Giles Trust, which have supported young people at teachable moments, such as when they are in custody or in A&E. But in too many cases, the intervention comes too late, as in the next case I want to talk about. Now, this might be slightly unusual, but I'm going to read the words of someone on the other side. These are the words of a constituent of mine who went to prison for 14 years for his involvement in the murder of a man using a knife. And his words are powerful, and I think they're important, because as we've heard, young people respond to others' lived experience. So when I asked him how he feels now about being involved in a knife attack that took someone's life all those years ago, this is what he said. I feel so many emotions. I feel ashamed, I feel embarrassed, remorseful, unequivocally. It doesn't matter that it wasn't my plan and I didn't wield the knife. Ultimately, decisions I made that night led to that, and if I hadn't made certain decisions, he would still be here. I feel dirty for that. I don't dream often, but when I do, they are bad dreams, violent, people trying to kill me. Whenever I see knife crime stories about mothers losing their sons, it takes me back. And it's the ripple effects, the people whose houses back onto the park where it happened, the first responders, the guy who was walking his dog who found the body. All these lives are changed forever. Having spent so much of his life so far in prison, he now wants to work with young people to stop them following the same path of violence. I asked him what would make the difference for young people now to stop them committing such a terrible crime. And this is what he said. It's more than what to say, it's what I do. The authenticity and the realness and empathy is so important. You need somebody like me who has the life experience, so you can talk openly about their home life, parents, friends, family, hobbies, hopes and dreams, and build trust and rapport, and show love. Take them on positive trips, take them to places they'd never be able to afford to go, and show them the life they could have. And it has to be a 24/7 thing, support all the time. The night of my offence, when I would have reached out, it would have been late, and you need someone to be there then. Not office hours and then they turn off their phone. At any hour, you need someone to say, where are you? I'm coming to you, stay where you are. There is so much more of my conversation with him that I think it would be useful for members to hear, but there isn't, unfortunately, time. But I hope in her remarks the Minister can address the importance of wraparound and consistent support for young people and the need to give intervention and mentoring from a very young age, not just at the point when a child is suspended or already in trouble. His key message about what will prevent knife crime is education from an early age, in the right way, delivered by the right people. So to conclude, Sir John, knife crime doesn't just destroy families, it destroys communities. It destroys town centres when people are afraid. My honourable friend and constituency neighbour, the member for Tipton and Wednesbury, couldn't be here today, but she asked me to reflect on the impact it has on schools too, such as Wodensborough, where a pupil who was killed will forever be remembered. I am proud that this government is so committed to stopping the nightmare of knife crime in our communities, and I see it as my role as the local MP to do everything I can to be part of that.